Want to talk AFL, and the man who does that for us each and every week on TheInformer is Alex Caiafa. Alex, welcome back.
Thanks, George. Good to be
Okay,
here.
Let's very quickly go through what was a really interesting round.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that you and I were bickering between the Lions and Geelong early on. You said, no worries, the Lions should get up in a tight game. Didn't prove to be the case.
Yeah, look, the Lions looked pretty good early, and then Geelong, that second half, they just absolutely ran over them. And
they must have read the reviews and they thought, no, we'll pay them back. What about Collingwood up against Hawthorn?
Well,
the Voodoo, nothing there.
Didn't that little stat I brought up last week absolutely come to nothing? No, Collingwood were good. They tore it apart early, and it was a no contest.
So when Collingwood goes missing, what's gone wrong?
It's their ball movement, and they just take a step back. They go into their shell a little bit, where when they're on the front foot and they're ready, they come out firing.
One side that came out firing was St Kilda last week up against the Dockers, but it didn't go to plan. In fact, if you were a St Kilda fan, you would have been going, this was 1987.
Yeah, it wasn't a good performance. Up by 6 goals in the first quarter. Well, at the end of the first quarter, I should say, and then
it
felt like they put the cue in the rack, and the game was done, and they let Freo back into the game. When you let a team back into the game, not good.
Port Adelaide came up against the Giants. The big question we had said to them was, who have they been beating? Yep. Well, they came out and beat one of the sides that has been doing some good things, the Giants, even though they've had a bit of an up and down year.
Yep.
So are they the real deal? Are they the serious contender?
Look, I think you've got to say yes. They're sitting pretty at the top at the moment, and they're beating a GWS team who are still very good. They have been up and down, but they're a good team, and yeah, you've got to give them some credit.
Okay, two of these sides that for years have been, very capable of playing serious, solid football, Richmond and Sydney. It was a lousy game, played in appalling conditions. But my goodness, was anyone going to score or likely to score?
Well, the wet weather played a huge factor as well, but it was a mixture of attack versus defence. Sydney were trying to limit the damage because they were going in a bit shorter than normal. They'd lost Kennedy, Richmond, they were always going to be on the attack, but they just couldn't break them down.
Did you enjoy the banter between the two coaches after the game?
Yeah, I thought that was quite fun.
So who came out on top?
I think you got to go with Longmire. I didn't mind what Hardwick said though, because it looked a very defensive game, but it was good.
The last game of the round proved to be the highlight of the round, and lo and behold, it was the Electric Blues, as we now are hearing.
It's been
up against the Bulldogs side. We've been playing some terrific football.
Yeah.
Do you think the crowd at Metricon made a difference?
I believe.
Forget about the sound effects. It was the real crowd.
No, if you listen to that game on the telecast, that was all crowd there at the stadium. That was no input. It was loud.
And
the players lifted from it. And that's been a thing for Carlton, is when there's been crowds there and the crowd's up and about, they seem to just find that extra little gear. So it was good.
Well, let's talk about what's coming up this week. And by the way, we've almost reached this stage now where we'll be seeing an AFL game every night on the screen.
Yeah.
The AFL is trying to provide the COVID-affected Victoria with a way out, with some serious entertainment. So some football starts, this new round of football, and it's the Geelong Cats in a cracker against Collingwood. And, Eddie and Brian Cook, they'll be eyeing one another from 10 paces.
Yeah.
Who will emerge victorious? And who'll have the last say?
It's one of those real 50-50 games, isn't it? Because they're both really good teams. They're both expected to be up there again. I'm going the Cats, but I don't think it's by any means, a certainty.
All right, we're talking Essendon and the Western Bulldogs. Yeah. Essendon in a rich vein of form. They seem to have discovered that confidence that was missing a couple of rounds, because they've been a really, really successful side thus far.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs, do they bounce back, or do they again succumb to a side that they match up pretty well with?
Well, Essendon are flying, but Bulldogs have won the last 5 against the Bombers, including a 104-point win last year.
Ouch.
So
can the Bulldogs?
The Bulldogs do match up very well, and look, Dylan Shield, as much as they're not a one-man team, Dylan Shield's a big loss in that midfield. So I'm tipping the Bulldogs to bounce back here.
Okay, so a spring against the pundits.
Yeah.
The Giants are up against the Lions. What do you make of this particular game?
Well, it's played at Giants Stadium, and that's my reasoning for picking GWS in this one. Is they're quite good at home. They've had a bit of struggles away, but when they get to home, they play some good football. So, and the Lions typically, haven't travelled very well. They've been a bit. In fact, they've been a bit questionable. So I think you just got to go with the home team here.
Okay, the much maligned Sydney are up against the Suns, who have been coming this year. Who emerges victorious in this?
Gold Coast in this one. Even though it's played at the SCG, Sydney they've lost Heaney for the year now. They've lost one of their veteran leaders in Josh Kennedy for 6 to 8 weeks. There's no sign of Franklin yet.
So depleted Sydney.
And yeah, they're very depleted. And Gold Coast, even though they lost last week, they're starting to look exciting. So
okay, exciting is North Melbourne when it wants to play football.
Yeah.
Can it do it against Richmond, who's been up and down like a bit of a yo-yo?
Yeah, they've been very up and down, but the thing is they've been winning games.
Okay.
And so you just got to go with the team that's winning at the moment. I'm tipping Richmond, but this is the hard thing with North. They're tough games to pick because they're either really good or really bad. So.
Okay, this is going to test you because it touches on the team that you follow, the team we both follow. It's Carlton up against Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide not playing at home, which will affect this. What are you thinking? Can the Electric Blues continue that form? Or will it be one step too much for up against a side that really is looking like the contender for the title?
Well, Blues are starting to show shines now of they're able to take the game on and they're backing themselves in now on both sides of the ball, and it's looking really good
for 4 quarters.
For 4 quarters, exactly. My issue is just we've come against the Port Adelaide team who are just
red hot.
They're red hot at the moment. I think Port just gets up in a close one.
All right, well, gee, you're breaking my heart.
Yeah.
Hawthorn against your really smart-looking Demons. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's another tough one because Melbourne are a tricky team and Hawthorn are coming off 2 disappointing losses in a row.
And not only that, for the very first time in an awful long time, we're hearing a bit of criticism about the coach.
Yeah.
The great champion coach who's been the best possibly for the last 15 years, Alistair Clarkson, coming under a bit of pressure.
Yep.
Does he get them back, or do we see the Demons emerge under Goodwin?
No, I'm picking the Demons here. I like Hawthorn, and I think
3 in a row again.
Hawthorn will bounce back, but I think Melbourne might just do enough there.
Okay, Dockers, Eagles in an absolute derby.
Yeah.
Who gets this done?
I'm getting West Coast. West Coast in this one, I think.
You think they're right where they should be?
Yep.
And yes, there is one more game, and
it's on a Monday night.
And it pits the team that basically can't beat anybody, the Crows, up against St Kilda, that can beat anybody on any day if they turn up and play 4 quarters.
Well, it's funny because after that loss to Fremantle, I've read a lot of different things of, is this the week Adelaide get their first win because St Kilda have a tendency to, lose these sort of games. But no, I think St Kilda bounce back here. They'll learn from their mistake and they'll come out.
Now, before we close this down, Anastasia Palaszczuk, the Premier of Queensland, has been very strident.
Yep. She's
watching all these football teams playing in her state, which is a notorious rugby league state.
Yep.
And she's just added a little bit of woe and pressure on Daniel Andrews by saying, we want the AFL Grand Final.
Yep.
What do you make of that?
Well, all Victorian teams going to Queensland. I don't think the situation with COVID is changing anytime soon here in Victoria. So I think Queensland are in the box seat at the moment.
Yesterday, the figure that came up for the coronavirus cases in Victoria was 238. Is that a number that strikes at a resident chord in your makeup? Does that number throw back any interesting bit of trivia?
Isn't that the number that Steel Sidebottom, I should say, has played for Collingwood?
That's exactly right.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, for all those people who think that numerology has a place in footy, it has a place in our lives every other day, so if only we look.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex Caiafa, thank you very much for joining us. I can't believe you've gone against the Electric Blues.